This conference will now be recorded.
So our meeting is called to order at 7 o'clock, June 21st, for the Board of Trustees of the Altamont Free Library. Thought we'd just take a moment and just remember our good friend Dick Howie, who passed away. And I don't know if anyone would like to share any thoughts about Dick. I've got one, but I'd let other people go first if they would like to. Oh, okay, well, I'll just share one with you. It would have been last Friday when we would have had our, for those who aren't familiar with it, we had, for probably close to 20, 25 years, we did a chicken barbecue where we would actually do all the cooking, do all the prepping of food. And it would have been this past Friday, would have been the Friday that we would have done it. And the preceding Thursday to that Friday, I hope I'm not confusing you, I would always put a call out to board members to say who could come to the Parish Center on Grand Street and help prep the coleslaw, the potatoes that would be baked that next Friday over the grill up just past the library, heading toward the tile company, as well as making the marinade for the chicken. Anyway, all the things that had to get put into place because we were doing all the cooking. We weren't bringing a company in. And as long as I can remember, and I was involved with it, the actual running of the barbecue for probably close to 20 years or so, there was Dick and Ellen every single time. And Dick invariably, and I always gave him a hard time about it, invariably would burn out one of the food processors in the process of cutting up, using it to cut up the cabbage for the coleslaw because we made our own coleslaw. But whether he was doing that or whether he was wrapping hundreds and hundreds of potatoes in aluminum foil for baking the next day, it was always a smile like you wouldn't believe. Like I'm sure most of you who know him or knew him always had, no matter what he was doing. So I just wanted to throw that out to you guys and just, he was a great guy. He was a good guy and we're going to miss him. So.
Yes, just yeah, I've said a lot of things about Dick over the past month. It hasn't even been a month. But I do think that it's well worth remembering that it was only 2 months ago at this board meeting that he celebrated his last birthday with us, and he was that kind of a guy. He could have been doing anything. We all would have understood if he had wanted to take the night off. But I don't think that it would have even crossed his mind. I don't think that it did, that he would miss the meeting, because he was that dedicated. He was that invested in what we do and in the library. He was incredibly integral to the building, to the renovation of the library, if not always through feats of physical strength, then through his attitude and his good cheer. I hope that I've seen Ellen and spoken to Ellen every couple of days over the past few weeks. This past Sunday was her birthday, the two of them are just are such a strong pillar of our community, and Dick will be tremendously missed. I miss him already. I miss him a lot. If anybody is inclined or interested, this coming Saturday will be a memorial service at the Altamont Reformed Church, 10 a.m. I suspect that it will be a pretty hot ticket. So if anybody is interested in coming out to that, I think that would be an appropriate way to remember Dick and all that he's done for the library. Over the next couple of months, maybe we can think about what else we might do to honor his legacy within the building itself, whether that's a plaque or whether that's naming something after him. I have a couple of thoughts about that, but I'll be happy to have those conversations.
Okay, great. Thank you. If I could just make one other quick request, and that is at the end of our meeting, if we could let Dick adjourn the meeting for us, as he was so inclined to do every time. So we'll do that posthumously, and if that's okay with everybody. All right, so
I take the meeting minutes and I just fill out, I just use the month before, and I hate this month. I'm sorry, because I have to take out Dick's name, and it is the last one he always does. I don't even have to touch it.
Anybody else? Okay, then we'll just move on then. Thank you all very much. And does anyone have any additions to the agenda that wasn't already, that weren't noted? Then not hearing any or seeing anyone. Review and acceptance of the minutes of May 17th, of our meeting of May 17th. Does anybody see any issues, problems, errors, omissions that we need to address? Okay, not hearing any. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes as Rachel sent them to us?
Motion.
Thank you, Deborah. Seconded? Thank you, Amanda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes from May 17th, 2021 have been accepted. The treasurer's report is we're gonna put off the treasurer's report, correct, Joe? Yes. You're muted, Joe.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll go right to the director's report, and we'll come back to the treasurer's report when Melanie gets here.
Okay. Since it's been about a month now that we have been kind of officially open, I think that we've been open for a long time, but that apparently is people don't experience browsing by appointment or grab and go service as being open in the way that they think of their library as being open. So in the kind of conventional sense, we have been open for the past month, and it's been absolutely totally fantastic. It has been a huge relief, not only to myself and to the staff, but to many of our users, to simply be able to walk in and not have to think about making an appointment ahead of time. That what I sort of thought of as a kind of minor barrier to entry seemed to be a much larger psychic barrier for a lot of people. So we've been really busy. We've had, not as busy as before, but certainly, as busy as we've been, in a year and a half. So it really has been totally fantastic. Story times have been absolutely bonkers. We have had no fewer than 30 people at the story times that we've had. I think it's 5 now that we've done all outside in the park. We've had as many as, I think, 42 was our highest. And that's crazy. That's if you can imagine 42 people or even 30 people crammed into the community room, there's just no way. Couldn't happen. So we're obviously going to keep going with outdoor story times as long as we can. Our Saturday hours, which we resumed 3 weeks ago, have still been a little bit slow. They're picking up. Each week has been a little busier than the week before. So that's good. People are still getting used to that. I think we're on a good trajectory there. When we look at next month's circulation numbers, I'm expecting to see some relatively big numbers, maybe not relative to 2019, but certainly relative to the past 16 months. Tomorrow we've got the Village Strawberry Social. We are helping out with that in a couple of different ways. We have booked a band, Hot Tuesday. They're great. They're going to be playing in the gazebo. We have a couple of lawn games that we're going to be setting up, croquet and ring toss and things like that. And I hope that I get to see some of you out in person, out at the Strawberry Social. We've got our concerts coming up. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's not really too much to talk about there. It's shockingly conventional, the way that the concerts are all coming together. We've got the contracts for all of the bands at this point. And I'm looking forward to a great series, and I hope I see all of you, or at least most of you, out at least one of those concerts. Those are a great time. The resuming traditions, we had our first graders out last week. What was that? Last Wednesday, I suppose. Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday. No, Wednesday. Last Wednesday, we had the first grade field trip. We skipped that last year, but it's absolutely one of my favorite days of the year, where the first graders walk over from the school. Katie Barker was a chaperone on both of those trips, so thank you, Katie. We handed out nearly 40 new library cards to our first graders, and got them all psyched up for the upcoming summer reading program, about which I am pretty excited, and which we've put quite a lot of work into. What else do we have coming up? Pat Fahey. Pat Fahey is going to be here. Assembly member Pat Fahey is going to be here on Friday, July 23rd for office hours, remote office hours. And she will meet with constituents. Anybody who wants to talk to her can do that. We'll get her set up here in the community room. So come on out. She has been really great on a bunch of different library issues over the past session. She got a really interesting anti-gun piece of legislation, which is, well, I like it. But she's also been really good on our ebooks bill, on our trustee training bill, on NYLA's several other big NYLA issues, the right to repair, home electronics. So come on out and see Pat. Always a good time. Let's see. Oh, trustee training, which I just mentioned. Trustee training. In the most recent legislative session that just ended, there was a new piece of legislation that was passed that mandates that all library trustees need to receive 2 hours of continuing education or training over the course of each year that they are trustees. This is to sort of catch library trustees up with Board of Education trust or school board, members of school boards who I think have to take quite a bit more training. I think it's something like 10 hours per year. We've got to do 2. So our annual core trustee training that Upper Hudson conducts will certainly fit that entire requirement. We will be on the lookout for other things that you can do if, for whatever reason, you're not able to make the core trustee training. But I think that the core trustee training will be a great way to fulfill that requirement. I'm not 100% sure whether that law applies to us. As always, these laws are written with municipal libraries and school district libraries in mind, and not necessarily association libraries. But I do think that it will be a best practice for us to engage in that training. Let's see, finally, I have been nominated to run for the treasurership of the New York Library Association. The election is ongoing. I don't anticipate that if I win, that it will be a tremendous burden. I am told that it is no more than 2 hours per month worth of work, which I can certainly fit into my own personal time. but I have not decided yet whether I'm going to vote for myself. I guess I've got a couple of weeks to decide. The polls close July 15th.
Do you have a slogan, Joe?
If
I'm not sure if I'm going to vote for myself.
there you go,
Say
there
your
you go.
slogan.
There it is. There it is. Anyhow, that is all I've got for right now.
So how many people are you running against?
You know, when I was approached to run, I said no, and they said we don't have anybody else running, and so I said fine, and now there's somebody else running, and I don't.
Don't take that personally, though, right, Joe?
What's that?
Don't take that personally, though, right?
You know, I think they, you know, the other person is from Long Island, so on that basis, I just want to beat them. But other than that, I have no particular desire to, you know, to do this job. I think I would be fine. I think I would be fine at it. The interesting thing about this position is that it is a 4-year seat on the council, 2 years as incoming treasurer, 2 years as full treasurer. There's no other position within the library community that sits on the NYLA Council for that long, and I do have some feelings about some of the issues that NYLA is facing at the moment, and from that perspective, I think that it would be an interesting position to hold. So that's what I've got going on.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Joe and his director's report? Okay. Do we have to approve that, or we just move on?
Just move on.
Okay. Into the committee reports. Shall we do it in the order that they are written, or do you want to do them in a different order, Mr. Director?
Written order is fine.
Okay, so we'll go to the building committee first. Paul, anything to report?
Yeah, a few odds and ends. Joe has probably got more things to talk about regarding the SAM grant, et cetera, and he is involved with that. But anyway, we're waiting for the repair of the roof, which we expect to have done sometime this month. But since there's no leaking or anything involved, I haven't you know, gotten on their case or encouraged them to come. I trust they'll come when you know, when he's able. We spoke to a gentleman, a house painter, about maybe you folks already went through this. I think I missed last month's meeting, so just stop me if I'm, you know, repeating old news. So we talked to the painter about possibly power spraying the library to spruce it up a bit. And, you know, we did a walk around, and, you know, there's some spots that look like they could use some touch up. And I think Joe might remember, I think it was about $1,000. And I'm not sure if that was something that we had to discuss, or if that was just something that was within the budget that we could just, you know, go ahead and do. Let's see. Oh, so I guess we can talk later about the plan to install the platform, which I think Joe has got some information on. The platform under the overhang in the front of the library. It's something we had talked about a couple of years ago, and waited for the SAM grant to come, and finally it has. But Joe knows much more about that. And let's see, we did install a little Knox box, which is a heavy-duty key safe, which is on the outside of the building that only the fire department has access to in case of a fire, so they don't break our building down, break our door down in the process.
Paul, was that a difficult install, or that was relatively easy?
It was relatively easy. Yeah, pretty straightforward. And let's see, I don't know if we actually, if did they ever, Joe can say if they've come back to actually lock it up and have the keys in there and lock it up. So I'm not sure. I left it open, tied open, so that it didn't accidentally get closed. So
yeah, the keys are safely and securely locked up in there. It turns out we could have done it ourselves, but they prefer it if we let them do it. I think they came the day after you installed it.
Okay. Two quick items. I'm working on the railings. I have them primed, so I have to paint them next, which is the easiest part. And after we get the building, if we do get the building power washed, I think that's a go. I will have to remove those outside storms because they will be streaked with water, dirty water running down the inside of them. And so I've kind of got that in my plan to get over there and start doing a few windows at a time, because I think some of them are quite bound. They were put in a little too tight. I'm not sure what that project's going to be like. Dan, unknowing laugh.
Please let us know if you need help, Paul, or let us know when you're going to be doing it, because I know some of them are really bound. I watched them get put in. And it's like, so I'll be more than happy to help if you let me know when.
Okay, I'll try one or two of them and see how it goes.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that. And Joe, you had some construction building items to talk about too, I guess.
Well, I've been trying for over a month now to get it's probably closer to 2 months to get our HVAC system looked at. John Dewey, who is our HVAC maintenance guy, is proving to be really, really difficult to get a hold of. At one point we spoke, he said he would come the following week. I followed up with him the following week. He said he would come the week after that. And that he would follow up with me to tell me which day of the week that he was going to come. And since then, it's been radio silence. I think I've left him, I'm going to guess, 50 messages, which sounds, awful, but we really do need to get it done. And he really just isn't being responsive at all.
Joe,
so we might need to, go ahead.
Did you, I thought you told me that he actually did call.
He did call, and when he called, he said, he would come the following week, and then he did not.
Do we have a contract with him that precludes us from reaching out to any other service provider?
No, we do not have a contract with him, but he knows the system pretty well. He's done an awful lot of repair work on it over the past year and a half. I've found him to be excellent when he has, when you get him here. I think he's been in 2 or 3 times to inspect, repair the system. Previous to that, we had a long-standing relationship with another gentleman named Mike LaMountain. Mike moved on away from the area. And in kind of the interim, we used whatever, big name brand HVAC folks, and they've always charged us an arm and a leg. So I would prefer to be able to use a local contractor like John, but he's not making it easy.
Is there what are we waiting on to have looked at? I mean, is something that's really causing a problem for the library right now?
It's not. It's not something that's causing. As I've talked about a few times, the HVAC system was not especially built for the kind of filters that we've been using, which are kind of a heavier duty kind of filter. A MERV 8 filter. So they really do need to be, those filters really do need to be swapped out at least twice a year. The schedule that we set up when he did the repairs to the system that would allow us to use the kind of filters that we need to use to, occupy the building safely and healthily. We said that they would be swapped out every fall and spring. And so we're still waiting on that spring filter replacement. The last time that he did it, he found that in just the few months between the big repair and the fall inspection, that a lot of the system, there were a lot of clogs in the system. There was a lot of debris. There was a lot of, pollen and just stuff getting into the air intakes, and those needed to be cleaned out. So I would imagine that that is continuing to happen. So those are things that need to be done on a kind of a biannual basis, and so we're waiting for that repair. I don't think that the air quality is diminished. Certainly, you can feel the airflow within the building when the system is on. It's very nice and cool in here today, which is why I'm here and not at home. So the system is still working. I just don't want it to get too far. I don't want it to let it go too long where the filters start clogging up, the air intakes start clogging up, and then we have a problem.
It's too bad because he's just an excellent technician, very friendly, nice person, and I think he maybe has trouble saying no, that he extends himself too far, and then in his own mind prioritizes what's important and who can wait, and doesn't necessarily let us know if we've been deemed to be of lesser importance. But anytime you want, I will try calling him as well and just, try to light a fire under him.
Okay, I may put you on that. And beyond that, we've got the 2016 SAM grant, which I described in the director's report, and we don't have to talk too much about. Beyond saying that I've been in touch with the contractors who we got a quote from for the replacement of the lights, to change those over to energy efficient LEDs. They are going to come out later on this week to take another look at the system, or to take another look at the building, and just to make any changes that need to be made to the original quote, which we got more than 2 years ago. We are told, I am told by this contractor, Potentia Management Group, that the rebates that are available from NYSERDA and other rebates that they would go for are largely unchanged since we got our quote. So that will probably not fluctuate tremendously. So that is a project that we can certainly do imminently, and I will be very happy to get that done.
All right, anything else from the building committee? All right, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Joe, very good. We're gonna put off the finance committee because we're waiting for Melanie's arrival. Anything on long-range planning?
We've got the pandemic survey to talk about. Last month, we talked about our long-range planning survey. There was a lot of discussion, good discussion. The committee, which is Deb and Katie and myself and Christine Carpenter, we went back and we reformulated the survey. I sent it out in the director's or in the board packet. So it's a lot shorter. It's about half as long. It's only 5 questions. This time they're all focused on the on our pandemic response. I can share that. So this is what it's going to look like when people open it. So really, straightforward to the point. We took your comments very much to heart. And all of the questions are related to, well, most of the questions are related to the pandemic and the pandemic response and what services people want to see be carried forward. So did anybody have any comments about that?
Hey, not hearing any. I guess that means you're,
Good.
oh, somebody have a comment?
I was just gonna say I thought it looked good. I liked
Okay.
it. It seems more clear on what the purpose is. So
Thank you. Good.
All right, excellent. So what's the timetable for putting that out? Is that like very soon?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Okay. So,
So that well, it is soon. We're gonna start putting it. We've got a whole bunch of literature that we're going to have out for folks at the Strawberry Social, and that will be one piece of it. So we're going to invite people to start taking that survey.
all right, excellent. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Joe in the Long Range Planning Committee? Welcome, Melanie. We'll get to the Finance Committee and the Treasurer's Report momentarily. We're just going to finish through the committee reports right now, then we'll circle back to you, okay?
Sure, thanks.
Okay, excellent. Personnel Committee did not meet. Program Committee, did they meet, Joe? Nope, they did not meet. So we'll jump to the Policy Committee, which is the review of the Anti-Discrimination, Anti-Harassment Policy.
Wait, sorry, just to go back for a second to personnel. Sure. I've got just to put it on your radar screen, I should have a review coming up over the summer, so we can, work on that, schedule that.
Gotcha. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. Anti-discrimination, anti-harassment policy.
Yes.
Are you going to pull that up for us, or?
I am. This is one that we all kind of lived a little bit last month when we went through the sexual harassment training that we all did, and so this should be pretty fresh in everybody's minds and experiences. This is a policy that was formulated by our attorney, and so it's kind of the most legalistic of all of our policies. I think he did a good job. I have checked with Bob to make sure that there haven't been any changes to New York State law that our policy should reflect. He says that there are not. Does anybody else have any comments, suggestions, ideas, changes that they'd like to see in the policy?
Okay, so can we get a motion to accept the anti-discrimination, anti-harassment policy as provided to us by our attorney and then presented by Joe this evening?
Motion.
Thank you, Deborah. Seconded? Thank you, Melanie. Seconded by Melanie. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Very good. So our anti-discrimination, anti-harassment policy has been reviewed and is on the books. Okay, cool. Anything else under policy?
Nothing else under policy. We've only got one more policy in the cycle of policy review, and then we will have done the full circuit. So I am very grateful to the policy committee who have done that work with me over the past year.
Okay, so let's go back to the, probably want to do the treasurer's report first, Melanie, before finance committee, or do you want to do the other way around?
Aye. It doesn't matter. I can do the treasurer's report. I think a lot of the stuff we talked about, it's addressed somewhere else too. So we talked about needing checks for the summer concert series and the Strawberry Social coming up. We're going to be writing checks for the bands for that. Budget prep will start in August. I did think I saw that you're talking about the SAM grant later, Joe, or you already did, or
Oh, yeah, we covered
did you already talk about that?
In the
Okay.
building.
And then the other thing that we currently are working on is cyber attack insurance that our insurance company has dropped or revoked or separated out from our insurance policy, specifically cyber attacks. So Joe has been working with them and is still working with them, or whether we want to add a separate rider, whether we want to have cyber attack insurance. So we are still finding out more information and details on that. And I think that's all I have. Anybody have any questions on any of that? That was the Finance Committee report.
How much is that cyber attack insurance? Like just ballpark. I know you said you're still working on it, but
well, that's what
I'm
we're
just
still working
curious.
on, because one option, an endowment, was like $250 a year, but we weren't 100% sure what that covered. But it went up to, I think, over, I don't have the thing right in front of me, but the other one was over $1,000 a year, I believe. Joe, am I right on that?
Yeah, that's right. So I've talked again to our representative over at our insurance broker, and the ballpark quote that we initially got, which was a range of like $800 to $1,200, actually is there's no way of knowing until we go through this very long survey about what, the nature of our network, the nature of our technology use, whether we back up, whether we have active antivirus on every machine, how many users we have. There's lots of, so they will not give us a quote until we go through that whole process. And I just haven't had anything like the time to really engage with that this week.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just curious.
Yep.
So it's an ongoing.
So the smaller piece of it, the rider or the endorsement on our current policy would give us some very basic level of protection. And I'm still trying to sort out what's covered, what's not, what would be covered under a full separate cyber insurance policy, and what would not. So it's tough. Large libraries, small libraries, organizations of every kind, school districts, we know, small governments have all been targets of ransom attacks recently. And we don't have a particularly sophisticated operation here, which on the one hand means that we're low-hanging fruit, but on the other hand means that there's not much that they can hold over us to ransom. I really have a hard time knowing how afraid of this we need to be, and what our attitude toward it should be. But the conventional wisdom increasingly seems to be that some form of a cyber insurance policy is wise.
Is the library, is there any mention of this by the Library Association? I mean, are they in a position to give us some guidance as far as, talking to an expert, an IT expert?
Their guidance is that we should think about it. Their guidance is that that it should be strongly considered and taken on if economically feasible for all of the member libraries. The thing that they're particularly conscious of is that they are and not we are, they are the the repository for all of the borrower information, all of the catalog information in the system. That's not information that we store locally. We don't store our payroll information locally. We don't store our financial information locally. That's all handled by QuickBooks or by Priority One Payroll or by Upper Hudson. We don't have a cache of interesting and important, documents that are going to be impossible to live without. So we rely on those larger organizations to do their job and to, use the protections that they need to keep that important data safe. And obviously we would be sunk without access to our catalog, without our financial information, but that's not something that we have anything that we can control.
Do we still have the card catalog up in the attic?
I wish we did. I don't know where it went. Does anybody know? Do you know? Do you know what happened?
I think it actually was auctioned off, actually, wasn't it? And I think I know who has it, but I'm not going to mention it when we're recording this, so it's okay.
Let me know. Let me know.
All right.
So Joe, I'm sorry, Dan.
Oh, go ahead, Deborah.
So Joe, just to follow up on your comment about our library not being the repository and rather it being Upper Hudson, it seems that the risk then really resides with Upper Hudson and those other organizations as opposed to us as individual entities.
That's 100% accurate. However, we do have, so if our computers were bricked, if we lost access to the staff terminal, to our, to my laptop, to the customer, the patron computers, life would be very difficult. And we would certainly be down for at least a day while we either, if we had the policy, negotiated with the hackers to unlock our computers. If our data was stolen, we would lose directors' reports, we would lose, posters, we would lose all sorts of things that we've created over the years. I do back up, both the staff terminal and my laptop periodically. I try to do it monthly. Sometimes it's less frequently than that, but I do it as often as I can. So the real threat is losing direct access to those computers, not so much the data itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's just, I'm thinking of us in terms of bearing the cost of potentially insurance of that type, when in fact it would be, a greater risk for one of, Upper Hudson to be taken down by a cyber attack as opposed to our small library. And so just weighing the decision-making along, risk versus cost kind of decision model.
Yeah, it doesn't, and I think you're 100% right about that. For sure, Upper Hudson does have cyber insurance. I can only imagine how much cyber insurance QuickBooks has. So it's just a matter, and we're not helped here in that I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. Like just none. I don't really know who these people are, how they're approaching the system. When I say network, I'm not 100% sure what I mean by that. I'm doing my research as best I can. I'm reading through these policies. I'm reading through the information, the literature that they send out. It doesn't entirely make sense to me. This is not what they teach in library school. So I'm doing my best here.
If I can be of any support in that way, Joe, given some of my IT background, I'm happy to help with that.
That would be very kind. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any other comments or questions for Melanie and the Finance Committee? Okay, not hearing any. Should we go then to the treasurer's report? Or have we already done that? We haven't done that yet.
Right, the financials.
Right, the financials, yes.
Okay, so the first one, the statement of financial position, just where we are this month compared to last month with our assets and liabilities. There was not a whole lot of change on there, just again, daily business, monthly business, I guess. Does anybody have any questions on that first one? Okay, the next one, not hearing anything. The next one is the statement of activity, which compares January through May of this year to January and May of last year. Two things that we discussed at the meeting is on the first page where it has the copier, there was not a deposit done in May, and Joe did let us all know that our copier fee may be increased, that he has been doing a lot of copying for local restaurants that have opened and their menus, like a lot of copying. So we'll all be interested to see next month where our copying fees look like. So that's an interesting point. And about halfway down, we have grants and others. That hasn't changed recently, but we are still waiting on the ACT grant. That is the last one currently that we are waiting to come in on that. There wasn't anything else that we noted on the statement of activity. Anybody have any questions on that one? Okay, and finally, we have the budget versus actual. And the only thing we discussed on this was that on the second page, about a third of the way down, or that the adult books is a little high, and not anything to be alarmed about, but just going to keep an eye on that and maybe slow down on that for the next couple months. Anybody have any questions? Oh, sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, the grants that we got in from ACT, the grant that we got in from ACT is intended to support the children's book collection in a year that we had to substantially cut that from what we had in previous years. So it, this is not the intention of the grant, but we do have a little bit more wiggle room, certainly within the overall library materials budget. So it may, be worthwhile to take a look and see if there's anything that can be shifted around there. Just because we're going to be adding in some additional money in the children's book budget.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on the budget versus actual? Okay. So I guess we need to motion to approve May 2021's financials. Motion, Catherine. And second? And I apologize, I can't see everybody. So Paul, thank you. I can only see 5 people, so I'm not really sure why. But so, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Melanie, very much. All right, we're going into old business. And the first thing on old business was an update on the metric to use for COVID decisions going forward. I think, Janet, you were looking into that. Is that right?
There we go. I had to find the mic button. Yep. And Joe and I emailed a little bit about this. I actually went and looked into some numbers going back into November. So I think Joe had mentioned in the last meeting that we were going to look at the number of cases per 100,000 of population. Idea being that that's a stable metric based on overall population, as opposed to what we had been using, which was based on the number of the percentage of positive tests. And as test rates change, as more or fewer people are concerned about symptoms, the percentage of cases of positive test results was getting very wonky. So number of cases per 100,000, if we move to that, and from what Joe was able to find out, at least a couple of other libraries in the Upper Hudson system have been using that metric. That gives us a stable baseline to work off of. I did look at COVID Act Now's website in a couple of places, going back into November, which was the last time we were at 3% positive test cases, which was the metric that we have been using. That worked out to 15 cases per 100,000, give or take a fraction. That was pre-vaccination. I also looked at April, which is the last time we had this conversation, and is also the last time that we were at about that 3% positive test metric. And interestingly, even though the vaccination program was well underway at that point, that also equated to about 15 cases per 100,000. So if we wanted to stick with a version of the 3% positive test metric that we've been using, but convert that to a more stable, reliable cases per 100,000, I would suggest setting it at about 15 cases per 100,000. Our alarm bells should start going off. That would be internally consistent with what we've been doing, just eliminating some of the noise that we would get from variable testing rates.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Shannon? Any comments?
So for the record, we're at just over 1 case per 100,000 right now.
Okay.
I think it might have slipped back down to under 1 today.
Is it? Okay.
And the only reason that I remember that is because over 1 case within the COVID Act Now website, that changes the state's coloration from green to yellow. So we had been green, and then we flipped over to yellow when we went over, and now we're back today to green.
Back to green. Yeah, and I also noticed that COVID Act Now, they use 10 cases per 100,000 as their cutoff for what they consider to be the line between medium risk and high risk. So if we wanted to scale back services, if we became concerned, we might consider using that 10 cases per 100,000 as we need to start paying attention. We may need to scale back some in-person programming, and then set 15 as as our closure point, because that would bring us back to that 3% that alarmed us in the past.
Okay. All right, great.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
So do we just accept this, or do we need to put something formally guidance that we're going to be going forward with?
Yeah, if we can vote on that, then I can bake that into any updates that I make to the health and safety plan after our discussion about headcount and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, then, can we get a motion from someone that we will accept the metric of 15 per 100,000 cases as our mark to what do we want to call it? Our cutoff mark.
Yeah.
So if we get a motion as described by Shannon, thank you again, Shannon, for doing the work for that.
Of course.
And that's the cutoff to go to grab and go, correct?
That would bring us back to
That's
grab and go,
Yeah.
So we got the motion was made by Deborah. Thank you, Deborah. Seconded by Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Okay, that motion was passed. Thank you again very much. On to Summer Friday book sales.
Yeah, real simple. If anybody is available to help out with some smaller book sales that we would do throughout the summer months, maybe not starting the first week of July when we've got quite a lot going on, but certainly as we go through the summer. If anybody can help run those tables, setting up, taking cash, breaking down, I would be grateful. I think it would be a good outreach opportunity, good opportunity for us to get stuff off of our shelves.
The hours you're looking to run these would be, you probably put this in your report and I didn't see it, but
yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends on when folks are available to help.
right. Okay.
I mean,
All
the
right.
other thing that we could do is we could run it without volunteers. We just put the tables out there and then tell people to pay inside. But I always prefer to have some kind of human element to it.
Sure, that sounds good. Okay. So give some thought to that, folks. If you can help out, that would be wonderful. Do we need to discuss reopening for browsing by head count, or did we already deal with that?
Nope, that's going to be a discussion.
Okay, go for it then.
Okay. All right. So given the low state of COVID spread within our community, as documented in several places, COVID Act Now, as Shannon just described, the state's numbers are really low. Increasingly, we are feeling, and we see this everywhere that we go, there's just more and more openness. The governor has put out this dictate that that most regulations are withdrawn in places that the state has dominion, and gives local control to businesses and municipalities as to whether they want to continue those kind of regulations. What I would like to propose is having a more open posture. And what we would do in this case would be to remove the 10-person head count, maximum head count, and remove the 20-minute time limit for visits, but keep the current masking requirement. That's kind of the most controversial point, not only amongst staff members, but amongst community members, patrons. My feeling in talking about this with the staff is that most people most staff members, not all, but most staff members would prefer if we kept the masking requirement. If we are going to be reducing headcount, if we are going to be reducing the time limit or doing away with the time limit, we could sort of do one or the other. We could keep the masks and remove the headcount and time limit, or ditch the masks and keep the time. That's, again, the sentiment of the majority, the substantial majority of the staff. So that is what I am proposing. We would also, under these circumstances, do away with some of the more annoying aspects of our operation that we've had in place since last June. The use of keyboard covers anytime that staff are using the staff terminal, and mouse covers. The daily health survey that they take at the beginning of every shift, that would be done away with. We would keep the screen in front of the desk. I'm thinking of any other changes. Those are the changes that I'm suggesting. Does anybody have feelings about masks? Does anybody feel like we ought to be ditching them?
I think that we should keep them because the kids can't be vaccinated.
100% correct. That is.
So if we're asking the kids to wear, I mean, we wear masks when we take our kids out because it doesn't seem fair to say we're old, so we don't have to wear a mask and you do. Grow up. I mean, it just doesn't seem fair, and I don't know that should dictate library policy, but I guess it's not a healthcare issue necessarily, but just fairness wise, it seems like you can put on a mask for the time you're in the library.
Yeah, I will jump in and say just my own personal experience. I'm kind of appreciative of the places that make it clear that they still prefer masks at the very least. Only because I still wear one in public because I've got a child who's too young to be vaccinated. And I feel like if I am wearing a mask, I'm somehow signaling that I'm not vaccinated, even though I am. I feel like I should have a mask on that says, I'm wearing this for my kid. And so just, for me at least, being in places that have a stated preference or requirement for masks, I feel like it removes that sense of like, well, what are other people assuming about me based on whether I wear this or don't wear it? It just sort of levels the playing field signaling wise for everybody.
I actually feel the same thing with the kids. Like, I feel like I'm making a statement about not taking not getting vaccinated, even though I am, and clearly I'm wearing a mask, so I am taking it seriously. So
yeah,
it does feel like signaling still. I agree with you.
My point, personally, my point on masks is a little bit different, but my view is if your staff feels like they would want to keep it, then I respect their wishes too. And I also respect the way of, it almost sounds like kind of trickling down. I don't want to call it baby steps, but let's get rid of this first. Let's see how it goes. Instead of just, and that, if that's, I respect your staff, and I feel like you guys are the ones on the front end of this. So that's thoughts for the mask stuff.
And if it's a choice between being able to take masks off or being able to do away with browsing time limits, I think most people would rather have, not having to worry about checking their watch or having somebody counting down their 20 minutes. If the price that they pay is wearing a mask, so be it.
100% agree with that too. I think that's a good one to start with as opposed.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be framed in that way, but that is the way that formulation was. The first staff member that I talked to kind of said that. And that framework, the trade-off of all of the other regulations versus the masks, that was something that everybody kind of hopped onto, and so that's where most of the staff is. I have to say that there are some staff members who are absolutely 100% sick and tired of masks. They feel like I'm ridiculous for continuing to enforce this, especially when they are sitting behind the desk, behind the plastic screen that we have around the desk. So that that opinion is available to you should you choose to go for that. That is a minority view.
Because I was going to say the biggest burden is, the biggest burden is to the staff members. So if the majority wants to keep it, then the public who's only in there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time can probably put up with it. If the whole staff hated it, then maybe I have to rethink.
Yep, the whole staff hate the keyboard covers and the mouse covers, and they will be very happy to ditch those as soon as they can. I will also put in a word for the immunocompromised and just protecting people who have made the decision for whatever reason not to get vaccinated. Because even though they've made that decision, having everybody wear the mask still does protect them. And so for all of those reasons, and especially the kids, I am very much inclined to maintain the mask requirement.
Yeah. One other question too, because I know this has actually come up at my husband's work. I assume we'd still be requiring masks for the unvaccinated if we were to choose to do away masks. I think that's the current CDC recommendation, right?
The current CDC recommendation is that in places where there is where the vaccine status of individuals is not known, that you continue to wear masks. That vaccinated individuals can, in many instances, not wear the mask, choose not to wear the mask. Vaccinated people need to continue to wear the mask. And what I've always said about that is that I do not want to make it my staff's job to ask whether people are vaccinated or not, and police that, that tension between making them ask every person who is not wearing a mask whether they have been vaccinated or not. I don't think that's anybody's damn business. So.
Yeah, well, and the reason that I ask is because at Jason's office, there have been complaints from staff members who are unvaccinated because they would still be required to wear masks. And they think that it's unfair that the vaccinated staff members can go without because they feel like that, like wearing a mask labels them. Then everybody knows their vaccination status because they have to continue to wear it. And they feel like there are employees there that feel like it basically outs their medical decision if they have to continue to wear a mask. So they would prefer, at his office at least, to see everyone have to continue to wear them so that nobody knows your status.
Interesting, an interesting mindset.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I just throw one idea out, and I may be all wet on this idea, but it wouldn't be the first time. What about the idea of, and I just know this because, like, I'll get on my bike to go to the post office, and I'll get halfway up Bramble Road, and I'll say, oh, I forgot my mask, and I'm going to go back and get my mask. What if we had masks available for people? Because now that more and more people are vaccinated, people aren't as likely to have them necessarily with them, but to have them when they walk in the foyer of the building, that they could pick one up, put it on, leave with it. I don't know if that'd be cost prohibitive or not, but I'm thinking that might be an idea.
Way ahead of you. Yep, we've got masks that we give out to the individuals routinely if they do not have one of their own. We've been stocking masks for just that reason for months now. We're going through them at a increasingly fast rate as people just forget to stick one in their pocket as they're leaving the house. I did it myself for the first time this past weekend when I was going to get a haircut. I was, I put my hand on my hand on the door handle to open the door, and I had this moment of panic where I didn't have a mask on me, and that's the first time in 16 months that I didn't. And I could see the people inside not wearing the masks, and so I knew that I could go in, but increasingly people who don't feel one way or the other and are happy to wear the masks if they're coming in, they just are forgetting to. They're just not having. They just don't have them. So yeah, we've been giving out more masks. We've been stocking them for months.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions about the?
Can we take a vote on that?
Yes, we can. That's what I was just saying. If anybody had any other comments. And Amanda, you get to vote 7 times because you're on it 7 times on the screen.
I was just going to say, Amanda's everywhere. She is quorum all just herself.
you might run into the to a problem with the ballot counters tomorrow if you're voting yourself in order to
Anyway, okay, can I get a motion then that we will okay, what are we going to do? What's this motion going to be?
Yeah.
The motion is to update the library health and safety guidelines to reflect that we are no longer limiting patronage by headcount, and we are doing away with the browsing time limit.
Okay.
We would also be doing away with the regulation that all staff members must fill out a health screening form at the beginning of every shift and use keyboard and mouse covers when using the staff terminal, but that we are maintaining the masking requirement for folks that are browsing the library.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Joe. Can I get a motion to accept, or can I get someone to accept that whatever I'm supposed to do. Can someone, yes, thank you, Shannon. Excellent. Shannon did something, but she did it first. So that's, somebody want to second that?
Second.
Thank you, Deborah. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? The motion is passed. Joe, make it known.
Aces,
All right.
thank you.
Post-pandemic survey, we've already done that, so we can move on. Summer concert series, you said there's not much to say about that.
Not too much to say about it. Our first concert is Tuesday, July 6th. What's the band called there? Lost Jams Found.
Are the checks, can I come up and cut those checks this week?
Yeah. Could you do it tomorrow?
I can do it tomorrow. Yes, I can. Anytime in particular?
Let's call it anytime after story time. So anytime after 11:30.
I'll come up after 11:30. Very good. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Into new business. Not much, just New York State construction grant, tool library shed, emergency backup generator. You want to talk about that, or is that just something you want to just?
Well, I'm gonna. So if you guys want me to stop pursuing this, then we need to decide that. But otherwise, what I'd like to do is to take some initial steps towards some of the projects that we talked about last month. I had filed for bullet aid awards grants from both of our state legislators. We did not get those. Most libraries did not. Most of the bullet aid turned out already to have been allocated, and so there was not as much going around. We can refile for bullet aid for next year, or we can pursue this other funding stream, which would be New York State construction grants. So the New York State construction grant is a library construction grant. Goes through first it goes through the library system, and then on to the Dormitory Authority of New York State, DASNY. They provide up to 75%, in our case, up to 75% of matching funds for projects with a lower limit of $5,000. There may be an upper limit, but I'm not aware of it. Our project would be one of the smaller projects that the system would be applying for a New York State construction grant, library construction grant for. And there would be two pieces to this grant. One would be for the library tool, the tool library shed. And this would be a kind of off-the-shelf shed. We would need to have a construction element to it. And so generally when people have gotten sheds or libraries have gotten sheds, the way that works is that you have a contractor come in and lay down a cement pad for the shed. It would have openings on both of the short sides of it, so that, and we would kind of bifurcate it with a wall halfway down. On opening it from the one side, we would have library storage, our ladders, our chairs, things like that, hoses. The public-facing opening would be a tool library where people could come and borrow household tools, garden implements, things like that. A seed library could be contained within that shed. Lots of cool things that we could potentially do. We would be the first tool library in the area, which I also think is cool. I think there would be a lot of support for it. I think there would be donations that we could get for it, not only in terms of money, but also in terms of, tools that people just want to get out of their garage, for the things that they only use once a year, those post diggers, those, hose and whatever, those kinds of things. So that's one piece of the potential grant application. The other piece is an emergency backup generator that could be used in case of power outages, not only for ourselves to continue our operations, but as a place of refuge for the community, where people would be able to come and get out of the cold, would be able to charge their phones, things like that. And that I think goes to our sustainability mission and our sort of community neighborliness mission. I don't think there's another place that's publicly accessible that has an emergency backup generator in the village. I could be wrong about that. So in cases of a an extreme emergency, this would be a place of refuge for the community. In terms of the timetable by which the grant needs to be put together, our initial application, preliminary application, needs to be in August 1st, and that just requires a kind of a program narrative and at least one quote for all of the elements of the project. So what I would like to do in between now and the beginning of August, because we're not going to meet again until mid-August, but before the final grant application is due. So what I'd like to do between now and the beginning of August is pursue those contractors, get quotes, and start developing a narrative. I'd also want to begin the process of getting a State Historic Preservation Office letter that would allow us to do this work, because our building is on the National Registry of Historic Places. There is an additional level of scrutiny that we would have to do when we're making any changes to the property. And basically we would need to get a letter from the State Office of Historic Preservation that says that we are not dramatically altering the appearance of the exterior, because the south face of the building where the shed would be already houses our HVAC system, our solar panels on the roof. That's where SHPA lets us put stuff like that. And so I don't think they would have a tremendous objection to us putting something there. We would probably also want to get have a surveyor come in and just take another look at the property lines. I have a suspicion that our property lines may not be where we think they are. And so before we laid down any concrete pads or built any permanent structures, I would want to make sure that those lines were perfectly clear. Does that all kind of make sense?
Makes sense.
I'd like to jump in on the tool library idea. The Guilderland Buy Nothing group on Facebook, somebody actually brainstormed a week or two ago that for that group, they were interested in putting together a list of people either in the village or in the town that had items that they were willing to share that they would store, but that they would be willing to make available to the public. And several people on that comment list suggested a partnership with either our library or Guilderland Library in orchestrating that sort of thing. So it would be people who are interested would provide a list of materials that they own that they would be willing to loan out. So if we're interested in facilitating something like that as an addition to materials held by the library, I'd be happy to work with that group to help put something together.
That's a really cool idea. I like that a lot.
Just the smallest, because you mentioned the seed library. I don't know if the seeds can stay in a not climate control, like they might have to be indoors.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it depends on the seeds, but
it'll also keep them away from mice.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Seed library might have to be inside, but it's pretty small, so very small detail.
This is not they also don't teach this in library school, so this is not a particular area of my expertise. Thank you.
You could put a seed library in a box.
Another reason why we should have kept that card catalog.
That's right. That's a perfect use case for an old card catalog. It really is. So if you really do know who has it.
It's not me, by the way, just so you know. It's not me.
Fair enough.
But I do
Yep.
know, I do know who has it. So I'll
Yeah,
talk.
so the post life of library card catalogs, there's essentially three things. You can store wine in there. They fit a bottle of wine very nicely, those shelves. You can put socks in there, and seeds. So seed library, sock library, wine library. That's what you got. Those are your options.
So do you want us to pass a motion to say, Joe, yes, we want you to continue to work on this, or we're just in agreement that you're going to keep working on this?
I want somebody, if they feel like they need to wave their arms and say stop, to say stop and wave your arms. Otherwise, we're going to look back at this. We're going to, look at what will probably be the close to the completed application at our August meeting.
Okay.
And if at any point, if we decide, first of all, if we can't get a SHPO letter, or if we find out that our property lines are not where we think they are, and we don't have the space that we think we have to erect a shed, or if there's any other reason not to go forward, then we can certainly stop at that point. But we can only go forward now. The timeline for putting together that application is unfortunately pretty tight every year, and I wish I had done more work on this before now, but here's where we are.
Okay. All right. I don't see anybody waving their hands crazily, so I think you can keep going then.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right. End of year consideration. This was my addition to the agenda. I'll be very brief. Here it is, the first day of summer, and as Joe just mentioned, we don't meet again until middle of August, and that leaves 4 months to the end of the 2021 year when we meet in August. And I would just ask people, and you probably know where I'm going with this, is would you consider, anyone in the group here, becoming the president of the library board for 2022 and taking on any other positions? So rather than wait and bring this up in November, I just thought maybe we could all just give some serious consideration. I know a lot of us are new to the board, but trust me, y'all could do this. And so if you would consider that, that would be wonderful, so that we could have some real, smooth continuity from one year to the next. And that was the thing I just wanted to mention there. And I'll mention it again in August as well. Talking point of the month, you have one, Joe, or not?
Concert start July 6th. Come on out. We are doing away with the head count, so we are even more open than we were yesterday. And we're going to be doing the book sales. So book sales, concerts. Oh, and summer reading program. We've got llamas. We've got llamas coming on Wednesday, July 7th.
Very cool.
Yeah, the wonderful llamas of Once Upon a Farms are going to be here. Dan is going to be doing a bird walk the following week. We're going to have animal rehabilitators. We're going to have Lula the Wonder Dog that folks can read to. We're going to be doing all kinds of cool things. And we're going to have a library llama. Library llama is our mascot for the summer, and library llama is going to be hiding in various places throughout the summer. So keep an eye open every week for her.
I had a question about those activities in the brochure for the summer. Are they geared toward kids more, or is there a certain age range? Or is it just like
they are all kid friendly, kid oriented. There will be, interesting facts and figures. Kelly Morton, our animal rehabilitator, does a great job of playing both to younger and older audiences. The llamas, I'm sure, will be of interest to both younger and older audiences. Dan Cavuano's Bird Walk, I'm sure, will be of interest to both older and younger audiences.
Absolutely.
Yep. So,
okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. If you just listen real carefully, Here, Dick just made a motion to adjourn. So can I get a second?
Thank you, Dick.
All right, Deborah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right then. Have a great evening. Thank you, folks, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.
Night. You.